The alien princess teased my accent, then froze when I spoke her native language. Their trunks glowed faintly in the dim light, and the leaves shimmered with a silver hue. Strange creatures darted between the trees, their eyes glowing in the shadows. Ethan had been trained for exploration, but even he felt a shiver of awe. Zithra was beautiful but also dangerous. Ethan's team had been sent to survey this part of the planet, but he had wandered away from them. He loved exploring on his own. There was a thrill in finding something unexpected, a thrill he could never resist. He was mapping the terrain when he noticed a soft hum in the distance. It was musical but alien. Curious, he moved toward it, stepping lightly over roots and rocks. The hum grew louder, almost hypnotic. Ethan's heart beat faster, a mixture of fear and excitement. Then through the trees he saw it, a city. The buildings were tall and elegant, made of a material that seemed alive. They glowed faintly, pulsing with light as if they had a heartbeat. This was no ordinary city. Ethan's mind raced. Humans had never seen Zitharan cities up close. He moved closer, trying to stay hidden. Suddenly, a figure appeared at the edge of the clearing. A guard, tall and slender, with skin that shimmered like moonlight. Ethan froze. The guard's eyes locked on him, and in an instant, more guards appeared. There was no chance to run. Ethan raised his hands. "I come in peace," he said, though he knew they might not understand him. The guards didn't respond. They surrounded him quickly, their movements smooth and precise. Ethan felt the weight of panic pressing down on him, but he forced himself to stay calm. He had to figure out a way to explain that he meant no harm. Then, from above, a platform descended. On it stood a woman. Ethan stopped breathing for a moment. She was unlike any being he had seen. Her skin had a soft glow, her hair seemed to float around her face, and her eyes were a deep shade of violet that almost seemed to see into his soul. She wore a gown that shimmered with light, and there was a crown-like ornament on her head. "You there," she said, her voice melodic and commanding. "Why are you here?" Ethan swallowed hard. I'm an explorer, I mean no harm," he said, his voice trembling slightly. The woman smiled, but it was not a warm smile, it was playful teasing. "You humans always sound so funny. Your words, they stumble out like clumsy stones." Ethan felt a flash of embarrassment. He knew his accent was heavy, but he hadn't expected it to be mocked by an alien princess. I'm trying," he stammered. The princess laughed softly, a sound that seemed to echo in the air. "Trying is not enough. You sound ridiculous," she said, tilting her head. "Do you always speak like that?" Ethan wanted to defend himself, but he couldn't find the right words. The words in his mouth sounded awkward, even to him. He realized that no amount of human pride could make his voice sound graceful to her ears. The princess stepped down from the platform and approached him, her guards following silently. She was smaller than he expected, but there was a presence about her that made Ethan feel small. "What is your name, human?" she asked, curiosity now mixing with her amusement. Ethan Blake," he said carefully. "Ethan Blake," she repeated, letting the words roll off her tongue as if tasting them for the first time. "Interesting. You have courage to come here, or are you just foolish?" Ethan shrugged. "Maybe both," he said with a weak smile, trying to appear braver than he felt. The princess laughed again, a sound that made Ethan's heart race. "You are bold, human, bold and clumsy." Suddenly, one of her guards stepped forward. "Your Highness, he is from the human vessel. He may not know our laws." The princess waved him away. "I will decide what to do with him." She turned back to Ethan. "Do you understand our language?" Ethan nodded slowly. "Some, I learned a little." He was careful not to reveal too much. Humans were not supposed to know Zitharan fully, but he had spent months studying their culture and language from intercepted data and old recordings. She raised an eyebrow. "A human who tries to learn our words? Now that is unusual." "I like languages," Ethan said simply. I wanted to communicate." The princess tilted her head again, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Communicate, we shall see." She paused, looking at him carefully. "You are in our city now. Everything you do will be watched. Any mistake can be dangerous." Ethan swallowed. He had expected danger, but hearing it from her lips made it real. He felt the weight of his situation. He was a stranger in a world that was not made for humans. One wrong move could cost him everything. "Do not be afraid," she said, almost teasing. "I am curious, not cruel." "But humans, you are so clumsy with words, you make our ears ache." Ethan felt his face heat up. I'm sorry," he said softly. "Sorry?" she asked, laughing lightly. "Do you know what that means here?" He shook his head. "Not really." She shook her head and took a step closer. You must learn quickly, human, or you will make mistakes you cannot take back. Her eyes searched his face. Tell me, can you survive in our world? Ethan thought about it. He had faced dangerous situations before, but this was different. Every move he made could be judged by beings far stronger and smarter than him, but he couldn't let fear stop him. I'll try, he said firmly. The princess studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled, but it was a dangerous smile. Try, yes, that is what humans always do. Always trying. Ethan noticed something strange. Despite her teasing, there was interest in her eyes. She was observing him closely, as if testing his mind and his courage. Then she spoke again, her voice soft but sharp. I am Liara, Princess of Zithra. You will address me as such, do you understand? Yes, Princess Liara, Ethan replied carefully. Good, she said, nodding. Now you will follow me, my guards will watch you, but you must obey my instructions. One mistake, and we shall see if your human bravery is enough to save you. Ethan nodded, feeling both fear and excitement. He followed her through the glowing streets of the city. Everywhere he looked, he saw wonders he had never imagined. Buildings curved in impossible shapes, bridges seemed to float in midair, and lights danced across the surfaces like stars. Zithra was alive, and Ethan was walking through its heart. Liara stopped at a central plaza. She turned to him, her eyes serious now. Human, you will spend the night here. You may eat, but do not touch anything else. You will rest, for tomorrow we begin your trial. Ethan nodded again, unsure what kind of trial she meant. He had faced challenges before, but he sensed this would be different. This was not about strength or tools. It was about intelligence, courage, and perhaps something more he did not yet understand. As she left, her guards flanking her, Ethan looked around the plaza. He felt small, yet strangely alive. This was a world where humans were underestimated, where he could show what they were capable of. He sat down on a stone bench, trying to calm his racing thoughts. His mind kept replaying her voice, the way she had teased him, the way her eyes had studied him. She was dangerous, yes, but also curious. And curiosity could be a tool if used wisely. Ethan took a deep breath. Tomorrow would be the beginning of something new. He didn't know what awaited him, but he knew one thing: he would not let fear control him. Humans were underestimated in this galaxy, but perhaps here, on this glowing alien world, he could prove that bravery and intelligence were worth more than appearance or size. As night fell over the alien city, Ethan felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement. He was alone, surrounded by beings far superior to humans in every way. But for the first time, he felt that he belonged somewhere. Not because he was human, but because he had the courage to face the unknown, the curiosity to learn, and the determination to survive. And somewhere deep in the palace, Princess Liara was thinking the same thing. A human, small and awkward, yet brave and clever. Perhaps he was worth watching. Perhaps he could survive. Ethan closed his eyes that night under the alien stars, unaware of how close he had come to changing the course of his life, and the future of Zithra itself. Ethan woke early the next morning to soft light streaming through the tall windows of the guest chamber. The room was strange but beautiful. The walls seemed alive, glowing faintly, and the floor was smooth, almost like glass but warm to the touch. He rubbed his eyes and sat up, remembering the events of the previous day. He had entered the alien city by accident and had met Princess Liara. Her teasing words and sharp eyes still echoed in his mind. He stood and moved toward the window. From here, he could see the city spreading out below him. Towers curved upward like trees, and bridges floated silently between them. Creatures moved through the streets, graceful and silent. Some seemed to watch him as he looked down, their eyes bright and intelligent. He felt small, yet strangely exhilarated. A soft knock at the door pulled him from his thoughts. Ethan turned and saw one of Liara's guards, tall and silent as always. "Your breakfast is ready," the guard said in careful, slow English. Ethan nodded and followed him down a series of winding corridors. In the dining hall, the tables were filled with foods he could not recognize. Bright fruits glowed faintly, and liquids shimmered like liquid light. He hesitated for a moment, then picked up a small plate. The food smelled sweet and tangy. He took a bite and felt a strange warmth spread through him. It was unlike anything he had eaten on Earth, but it was good. As he ate, he thought about what the princess had said. A trial. She had called it a trial. Ethan had no idea what to expect, but he knew it would test him in ways he had never imagined. Humans were clever, yes, but he was only one man against an entire alien civilization. He had to be careful, but he also had to find a way to show her that humans were more capable than they believed. When he finished, the guard motioned for him to follow. Ethan did, stepping carefully through the corridors. Soon, they reached a large hall. It was unlike the dining hall. This place was wide and open, with platforms, pulleys, and strange devices built into the walls. Ethan looked around in awe. Princess Liara was waiting. She stood in the center, her arms crossed, a faint smile on her face. "Human," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "Today we see what you are made of. You will face a series of challenges. Each test will measure a skill important to survival here: strength, intelligence, and the ability to adapt." Ethan swallowed and nodded. I will do my best," he said. "Your best must be enough," she said, her violet eyes studying him closely. "The first trial begins now." Without warning, a platform beneath Ethan's feet moved. He stumbled slightly but caught himself. The platform lifted, taking him above the ground. Below, the floor was gone, and he realized he was suspended over a pit filled with glowing, jagged rocks. He felt a shiver run down his spine. "Cross the platforms carefully," Liara instructed. "Each step requires precision." "Fail and you fall." Ethan looked at the platforms. They were small, floating above the pit. Some moved slowly back and forth, while others rotated. He took a deep breath. Humans were not as light as Zitherans, and their balance was not perfect, but they were clever. He studied the pattern of movement and began to move, one careful step at a time. He slipped once, his foot sliding on a platform. Instinctively, he grabbed a handhold and swung himself back onto the platform. He felt the pit below him, dangerous and unforgiving, but he did not panic. Humans could survive with quick thinking and steady hands. Step by step, he moved across the floating platforms. Princess Liara watched silently, her expression unreadable. Ethan noticed a flicker of surprise in her eyes as he managed to cross the last platform and step safely onto solid ground. He exhaled, trying to steady his racing heart. "Impressive," Liara said quietly. "For a human, you have balance and quick thinking." But the trials are not over. The next challenge was in another part of the hall. Ethan followed the princess, moving through a maze of glowing barriers. Liara explained that he had to retrieve a small object from the center of the maze without touching the barriers. If he touched one, it would reset his progress. Ethan studied the barriers. They were sensitive to touch and moved in a pattern he had to memorize. He realized that rushing would not help. Humans were not as fast as Zitherans, but they could use patience and observation to succeed. He began moving carefully, observing the timing of the barriers. Step by step, he memorized the sequence. He moved forward, pausing when necessary, adjusting his steps to match the moving lights. His mind raced, but he kept calm. This was a test of intelligence and patience, and he would not fail. Finally, he reached the center of the maze. The object he needed was a small crystal that glowed with a soft light. He picked it up and carefully retraced his steps, moving back through the barriers without touching them. When he reached the edge of the maze, Liara clapped her hands lightly. "You are clever, human. You observe, you think, and you act. That is rare among your kind," she said. "Most humans would rush and fail." Ethan smiled faintly. "I guess we are underestimated," he said. Liara's eyes narrowed slightly, as if considering his words. "Perhaps," she said. "But cleverness alone is not enough here. Adaptation is key. You must be ready for anything." The next trial was unexpected. Liara led him to a room filled with strange alien creatures. They were small but fast, with sharp claws and glowing eyes. "You must calm them without harming them," Liara explained. "If you attack, the trial fails. If you succeed, you move on." Ethan froze for a moment, unsure what to do. Humans were strong, yes, but his strength alone could not help here. He took a deep breath, recalling his studies of alien behavior. Patience and calmness were key. He lowered his hands, spoke softly, and moved slowly toward the creatures. The creatures hissed and lunged, but Ethan stayed still. He mimicked their movements, using slow gestures. Gradually, they stopped attacking. He continued to move carefully, guiding them toward a small enclosure. Step by step, he led all the creatures inside. Liara watched silently, then smiled. "Human, you are patient and observant. You understand more than you should. Perhaps you are learning faster than I expected." Ethan felt a small surge of pride. He had not only survived, but had impressed the princess. Yet he knew the trials were far from over. Each challenge tested a different skill, and he had to remain alert. Finally, Liara led him to a platform overlooking the city. The last trial of the day is a test of communication, she said. You must speak to me in our language. If you fail, the trial ends. If you succeed, you will gain my trust. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Speaking the language of Zithara was difficult. Humans were not supposed to know it well, and mistakes could be dangerous. He concentrated, recalling the phrases he had secretly learned. He took a deep breath and spoke slowly. The words rolled from his tongue, careful and deliberate. Liara's eyes widened as she listened. He continued, speaking fluently enough to convey respect and understanding. For a long moment, Liara said nothing. Ethan waited, his heart pounding. Then she spoke, her voice quiet and sharp. You understand our language. Human, how did you learn this? Ethan smiled faintly. I studied. I wanted to understand you, your people, your world. I wanted to communicate, not just survive. Liara froze, her eyes wide with shock. This is not possible. Humans do not, they cannot. She shook her head, trying to process what she had heard. Ethan realized he had surprised her. His words had broken her expectations. Humans were underestimated, seen as clumsy and weak. Yet here he was, speaking a language thought impossible for humans to learn. You may stay, Liara said finally, her voice softening. You have shown courage, intelligence, patience, and skill I did not think humans possessed. Perhaps I misjudged you. Ethan let out a breath he did not realize he had been holding. He had survived the trials of the day and had earned a small measure of respect from the princess. As he left the platform, Liara watched him carefully. There was a spark of curiosity in her eyes now, mixed with something else he could not quite name. Perhaps it was respect. Perhaps it was intrigue. Ethan walked back to the guest chamber, tired but exhilarated. He had faced danger, puzzles, and creatures, yet he had survived. Humans were underestimated in the galaxy, but today he had shown what one human could do. That night, as he lay under the soft glow of Zitharan stars, Ethan thought of the trials to come. He did not know what awaited him, but he knew he had proven something important. He had proven that humans were clever, brave, and capable of more than the aliens expected. And somewhere in her palace, Princess Liara could not stop thinking about the human who had surprised her, the one who had spoken her language and faced her trials with courage. She had teased him once, but now she wondered what else he could do. The next morning, Ethan woke with a mixture of anticipation and nervousness. The trials of the previous day had tested his balance, intelligence, patience, and language skills. He had survived, and even Princess Liara had shown signs of respect. But he knew the challenges were far from over. Zithara was full of surprises, and the princess had already proven that she liked to test him. He dressed quickly in the simple clothes provided to him. The fabrics were light and flexible, easy to move in, and Ethan appreciated the thought that had gone into them. He left his room and found one of Liara's guards waiting for him in the corridor. Today's trial begins soon, the guard said, his voice calm and steady. Ethan nodded, following him through a series of winding halls until they arrived at a large open chamber. Princess Liara stood in the center, her arms crossed, her violet eyes watching him intently. Human, she said, her voice softer than before, today you will face the trial of adaptation. You must think quickly, act faster, and survive against unexpected dangers. Do you understand? I understand, Princess, Ethan replied, keeping his voice steady. Liara gestured, and a series of walls rose from the floor, forming a maze-like structure. The walls were covered in glowing symbols, which seemed to shift and change as he looked at them. Ethan took a deep breath. This trial would not only test his mind and agility, but also his ability to adapt to the unknown. Your goal, Liara said, is to reach the center of the maze and retrieve the orb, but beware, traps and creatures lie in wait. Only humans with quick thinking and courage can succeed. Ethan stepped forward cautiously. The first section of the maze was calm, but he soon noticed the symbols on the walls glowing brighter as he passed. He realized that the walls themselves were sensing his movements. He slowed his steps, observing patterns and timing his moves carefully. Humans were not as strong as Zitharans, but they were clever. He had to think ahead. Suddenly, a section of the floor beneath him shifted, forming a gap. Ethan jumped quickly, landing on a moving platform. He felt the wind rush past him and focused on keeping his balance. Step by step, he navigated through the moving sections, using both skill and quick thinking. As he moved deeper into the maze, he heard a faint growl. He froze. From the shadows, creatures emerged. They were small but fast, with sharp claws and glowing eyes, similar to the ones from the previous day. This time there were more of them, and they were clearly aggressive. Ethan's heart raced, but he remembered the lesson from yesterday. Patience, observation, and calmness could be more powerful than brute strength. He moved slowly, keeping his eyes on the creatures. He noticed their patterns, they paused, then lunged in a predictable rhythm. Using this knowledge, he dodged and circled, leading the creatures away from him rather than confronting them directly. The strategy worked. One by one, he guided the creatures toward a corner of the maze where they could not reach him. He had survived without harming a single one. Liara watched from above, her expression unreadable. She was impressed but tried not to show it. Humans were clever, yes, but she had expected them to fail sooner. Yet here he was, moving through her maze, calm under pressure, adapting to every danger. Finally, he reached the center of the maze. The orb rested on a pedestal, glowing softly. Ethan stepped forward carefully. As he reached for it, a new danger appeared. A sudden wave of energy shot from the walls, forming a barrier between him and the orb. He jumped back instinctively, thinking quickly. Humans were not fast like Zitharans, but they could improvise. He noticed small gaps in the energy barrier. Timing his move perfectly, he darted through one of the gaps and grabbed the orb. He held it tightly, feeling its warmth in his hands. The energy faded as he stepped back, signaling the completion of this part of the trial. Liara's voice echoed through the chamber. "Well done, human. You think quickly and adapt even under pressure. This is rare among your kind. Perhaps there is more potential in humans than I believed." Ethan felt a small smile tug at his lips. He was tired and sweaty, but proud. He had survived another trial, and he could see that the princess's respect was growing. But the day was not over. Liara led him out of the maze and into a different part of the city, where the streets were wide and open. "The final challenge of the day," she said, "will test your ability to act in unexpected situations. You will face something you have never seen before. You must think, act, and survive." Ethan followed her cautiously. They reached a large open square. Suddenly the ground trembled. Ethan stumbled slightly but caught himself. From the shadows of the surrounding buildings, a group of rogue soldiers appeared. They were Zitharans, but their uniforms were darker and their eyes were cold. Liara's expression hardened. "These are traitors," she said. "They wish to overthrow my rule. You human must protect me and survive." Ethan's heart raced. Humans were not trained for alien combat, but he had faced dangers before. He had to think fast. The soldiers charged, their movements coordinated and precise. Ethan ducked behind a pillar, observing their patterns. Humans could not match Zitharans in strength or speed, but they were clever. He noticed the soldiers hesitated when they encountered obstacles. Using quick thinking, he pushed over a series of barriers, slowing their advance. Then he picked up a discarded weapon from the ground, a simple human device that emitted a blinding light. He aimed it carefully, using it to disorient the soldiers. Liara watched closely, staying behind him but ready to act. Ethan moved with precision, using his environment to his advantage. He was not strong, but he was smart. Step by step, he led the soldiers into traps, using the terrain to level the playing field. The battle was intense. Ethan dodged, ran, and improvised. He felt fear, yes, but also determination. Humans were underestimated, but here he was proving that courage and intelligence could rival even the strongest aliens. Finally, after what felt like hours, the last rogue soldier fell, retreating into the shadows. Ethan stood panting, holding his makeshift weapon. He looked at Liara, who was watching him closely. "You survived," she said, her voice soft but filled with admiration. "You protected me when most humans would have run. Perhaps there is hope in your kind after all." Ethan smiled faintly, trying to hide his exhaustion. I did what I had to," he said. Liara's eyes softened. "You are clever, brave, and adaptable. I did not expect a human to accomplish all of this. Perhaps I judged your kind too harshly." Ethan felt a surge of pride. He had faced physical danger, puzzles, creatures, and rogue soldiers, and he had survived. Humans were underestimated across the galaxy, but he had shown that they could rise to any challenge if they used their minds and courage. As they walked back through the glowing streets of the city, Ethan noticed that Liara was quieter than usual. She seemed deep in thought, her eyes focused on him. For the first time, he realized that she was genuinely curious about humans. Perhaps she was beginning to see their potential, not as clumsy outsiders, but as capable beings. That night, Ethan lay in his chamber, exhausted but exhilarated. The trials had tested him in every way possible, and he had survived. He had faced danger, puzzles, and combat, and he had earned the respect of Princess Liara. He thought about the day's events. The maze had tested his patience and intelligence. The creatures had tested his calmness and observation. The rogue soldiers had tested his courage and adaptability. And through it all, he had proven something important. Humans were clever, brave, and capable of much more than aliens believed. Somewhere in her palace, Princess Liara could not stop thinking about him. The human who had faced her trials and survived, who had spoken her language and protected her life, was not like any human she had ever known. He was clever, resourceful, and brave. Perhaps he was more than just a visitor. Perhaps he was someone who could change the way Zitharan saw humans forever. As Ethan drifted off to sleep under the soft glow of Zitharan stars, he felt a sense of purpose. He did not know what the future held, but he knew he had made a mark on this alien world. He had survived, he had impressed the princess, and he had begun to prove that humans were a force to be reckoned with. And deep in the palace, Liara watched the stars as well, thinking about the human who had surprised her in every way. She had teased him once, but now she wondered what else he could do. Perhaps the trials were not over, and perhaps this human was only beginning to show what he was truly capable of. Ethan woke early, his body still sore from the trials of the previous day. His muscles ached and his mind was tired, but he felt a strange excitement. The city of Zithara was alive with movement. Light shimmered across the towers, and alien creatures moved silently through the streets. He had survived Liara's trials, impressed her, and now he sensed that something bigger was coming. He dressed quickly and left his chamber. A guard was waiting outside, silent and alert. Ethan followed him through twisting corridors until they reached a wide hall. Princess Liara was already there, standing in the center, her expression serious. Her violet eyes scanned him carefully. "Human," she said, her voice firm, "today is not just a trial. Today you will face real danger. The rogue faction that seeks to overthrow my rule has moved. You must help me stop them." Ethan's heart raced. He had faced challenges in the training halls, puzzles, and creatures, but now he would face armed enemies. Humans were not as strong as Zitharans, and the rogue soldiers were trained fighters. He felt a mix of fear and determination. I will do my best, Princess," he said. Liara nodded. "Good, stay close, follow my lead, and use your mind. Strength alone will not save you." They moved through the city streets, quiet and cautious. Ethan noticed the tension in the air. Buildings that had glowed peacefully the day before now seemed darker, shadows stretching across the ground. He could hear distant shouts and the sounds of movement. Soldiers were approaching. They reached a central plaza where the rogue faction had gathered. Ethan counted at least a dozen Zitharan soldiers, armed and ready. Liara's eyes narrowed, and she motioned for him to stay behind a pillar. "Human, observe their pattern," she whispered. "We cannot face them head-on, we must outthink them." Ethan crouched behind the pillar, studying the soldiers. They were disciplined, moving in coordinated patterns. A direct attack would be suicidal, but humans had an advantage: ingenuity. He noticed gaps in their formation, places where their focus was weak. He whispered to Liara, "If we can separate them, we can take them down one by one. I have an idea." Liara looked at him, surprised. "Go on," she said. Ethan pointed to the edges of the plaza. "There are crates and barriers. If we use them strategically, we can funnel the soldiers into narrow spaces where their numbers won't matter. I can create distractions, and you can strike from the sides." Liara studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Very well, human. We will try your plan." They moved carefully. Ethan picked up a small device from the ground, one used by humans for light and sound. He activated it, creating a loud noise on one side of the plaza. The rogue soldiers turned immediately, moving toward the sound. Liara moved swiftly on the opposite side, taking down two soldiers silently. Ethan continued to create distractions, moving quickly and quietly. He used barriers and crates to guide the soldiers into confined areas where Liara's strikes were more effective. Step by step, they reduced the enemy's numbers. Despite their careful planning, one soldier noticed Ethan. He lunged toward him, claws extended. Ethan dodged instinctively, feeling the sharp air brush past him. He grabbed a nearby rod and swung it, knocking the soldier off balance. Liara quickly finished the soldier with a precise strike. Ethan's heart pounded, but he kept moving. Humans were not the strongest, but they were clever. Each move he made was calculated, each step designed to maximize the advantage of strategy over strength. The battle continued, fierce and tense. Ethan and Liara moved as a team, covering each other, striking with precision. He marveled at her skill and focus. She was fast, elegant, and deadly, but she trusted him to act alongside her. For the first time, he realized that she saw humans differently now, not as clumsy outsiders, but as capable allies. Finally, after what felt like hours, the last rogue soldier fell, retreating into the shadows. Ethan and Liara stood in the plaza, breathing heavily, their clothes torn and stained. They had survived, and they had won. Liara turned to Ethan, her expression softening. You are remarkable, human. You think quickly, act decisively, and remain calm under pressure. I underestimated you. Ethan smiled faintly, though he was exhausted. I just do what I have to, he said. No, Liara said, stepping closer. You do more than that. You adapt, you plan, and you survive. That is rare. Humans are underestimated, but perhaps they should not be. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest at her words. Respect from Princess Liara meant more than he could express. He had faced her trials, impressed her, and now they had fought together in real danger. But the danger was not over. Liara's eyes narrowed again as she scanned the area. The rogue faction may have more soldiers. We must secure the city and ensure they cannot strike again. Ethan nodded. What do you need me to do? Liara smiled faintly. Follow me, human. We will show them that humans are not to be underestimated. They moved through the city, checking streets and alleyways for signs of enemies. Ethan noticed how different the city felt now, no longer just a place of beauty, but a battlefield. He also noticed how closely the princess trusted him. He felt a sense of pride, but also responsibility. Humans were often seen as weak, but here he could prove their worth. As they patrolled, they found a group of civilians hiding in a side street. They were small creatures, alien but fragile, clearly frightened by the recent conflict. Ethan stepped forward. Don't worry, he said softly, using his best calm voice. You are safe now, follow us. The civilians looked at him with wide eyes, uncertain, but they followed. Ethan realized that humans had an advantage here, not strength, not speed, but empathy. He could understand fear and act to protect those who could not protect themselves. Liara noticed his actions. You are not only clever and brave, she said quietly, but compassionate. That is rare among humans or any species. Ethan felt his cheeks warm. He had never thought of himself as particularly heroic, but he realized that courage was not just about fighting. It was about protecting others, even at risk to oneself. They secured the city for the night, ensuring that the rogue faction could not return. Liara led Ethan to a quiet balcony overlooking the glowing towers. The city was calm now, peaceful in the soft light of the alien stars. You have done well today, human, Liara said. Her voice was softer now, almost gentle. You faced danger, adapted quickly, and protected those who could not defend themselves. I am impressed. Ethan looked at her, unsure what to say. I only did what I thought was right, he said simply. Liara smiled faintly. That is what makes you different. Most humans would panic, run, or fight without thought. You use your mind and your heart. That is rare and admirable. Ethan felt a swell of pride. Humans were underestimated across the galaxy, yet here he was, showing that they could face dangers greater than themselves and succeed. As they stood together, looking over the city, Ethan realized something important. He had survived trials, impressed the princess, and fought alongside her. But more than that, he had begun to form a connection with her. Not a simple friendship, but something deeper, built on respect, trust, and shared experiences. Liara turned to him, her eyes thoughtful. Human, I did not expect you to succeed. I did not expect to trust a human, but you have proven me wrong. Ethan nodded. I only hope to continue proving that humans are capable. Liara's expression softened. Perhaps you will. The galaxy is full of dangers, human. And if you continue on this path, you may change how Zitherans see your kind forever. Ethan felt a sense of purpose. He had faced the trials of the princess, survived real danger, and earned respect. But he knew there was more ahead. The rogue faction was not gone, and the challenges of Zithra and the galaxy were far from over. That night, as he lay under the soft glow of the alien stars, Ethan reflected on what had happened. Humans were clever, brave, and adaptable. They were underestimated, yes, but he had shown that one human could make a difference. He had survived, fought, and impressed Princess Liara. And somewhere deep in the palace, she could not stop thinking about the human who had surprised her, who had protected her life, and who had proven that humans were more than they appeared to be. As sleep took him, Ethan knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he was ready. He was human, and humans were underestimated, but that did not mean they were weak. It only meant they had more to prove. And Princess Liara, watching the stars from her palace, could not help but wonder what other surprises this human might have in store. Ethan woke to the soft glow of Zithara's morning light. The city was quiet, but he knew it would not stay that way. The rogue faction had retreated, but their threat was not gone. Something in the princess's expression told him that today would be the most dangerous day yet. He dressed quickly, preparing himself as best he could. He had survived trials, creatures, and rogue soldiers. He had faced dangers that would have crushed an ordinary human, but today felt different. Today, the danger would be immediate and relentless. Liara waited for him in the main hall, her violet eyes serious. "Human," she said, her voice calm but urgent, "the rogue faction has returned. They are stronger this time, and their goal is to capture me. We must stop them, or the city and my people will fall." Ethan nodded. "I understand, Princess. I will do whatever I can." Liara's gaze softened slightly. "I trust you, human. You have proven yourself in every way. Stay close to me and think clearly. That is the only way we will survive." They moved quickly through the city streets, alert to every sound and shadow. The glowing towers seemed peaceful, but Ethan knew that danger could strike at any moment. As they reached the central plaza, he saw them, dozens of rogue soldiers, armed and moving with precise coordination. Liara's eyes narrowed. "They think they can overwhelm us with numbers. We will show them that humans and Zitharans together are not to be underestimated." Ethan took a deep breath, steadying his nerves. Humans were not as fast or strong as Zitharans, but they had ingenuity, courage, and the ability to adapt. He would need all of that today. The rogue soldiers charged. Ethan ducked behind a pillar, quickly assessing the situation. He noticed gaps in their formation, weak points where he could create distractions. Liara moved beside him, poised and ready. "Follow my lead," she said. "I will strike where they least expect it." Ethan nodded. He activated a small human device, one that emitted a bright, blinding light. He aimed it at the soldiers, disorienting them for a moment. Liara struck from the side, taking down 2 soldiers with precise movements. Ethan continued to create distractions, using crates, barriers, and his own quick thinking to guide the soldiers into positions where Liara could strike effectively. The battle was intense. Ethan dodged and ran, thinking quickly with every move. He realized that humans were underestimated not because they were weak, but because they were clever. Step by step, he used the environment to his advantage, turning every obstacle into a tool. Suddenly, a rogue soldier lunged at him with sharp claws. Ethan leaped to the side, narrowly avoiding the attack. He grabbed a pole from the ground and used it to push the soldier into a barrier. Liara was there in an instant, striking the soldier down. Ethan realized how well they worked together. He was not just surviving, he was fighting as part of a team, trusted and relied upon by the princess herself. The rogue faction pressed harder, but Ethan remained calm. He noticed that some soldiers hesitated when they encountered obstacles. Using this, he led groups of them into narrow corridors where Liara could handle them. Humans were not the strongest, but strategy and timing could match strength. Hours seemed to pass in the chaos. Ethan and Liara moved as one, covering each other, striking with precision, and surviving against overwhelming odds. Sweat ran down his face and his muscles burned, but he did not stop. Humans were underestimated, yes, but he was proving that one human could change the outcome of a battle. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the last rogue soldier fell. The plaza was silent except for the heavy breathing of Ethan and Liara. They had won, but both knew the threat was not entirely gone. Liara turned to him, her violet eyes softening. "Human, you have done more than I expected. You faced danger, adapted quickly, and protected my life. You are extraordinary." Ethan smiled faintly, though he was exhausted. I only did what I had to," he said. "No," Liara said, stepping closer. "You did more than survive. You thought, acted, and protected. That is rare and admirable. You are different from what I believed humans could be." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. Respect from Princess Liara was more than he could have hoped for. He had faced trials, solved puzzles, fought creatures, and survived real combat. Now she trusted him fully, and that trust felt more valuable than any reward. As they walked through the city streets, Ethan noticed the citizens emerging from hiding. They looked at him with awe and gratitude. Humans were rarely seen in Zithra, and this one had fought alongside the princess, saving lives and proving that humans were clever, brave, and capable. One small child approached him cautiously. Ethan knelt down. "You're safe now," he said softly. "No one will hurt you." The child smiled, and Ethan realized that courage was not just about fighting, it was about protecting others, even at risk to oneself. Liara watched him, a small smile on her face. "You are not only clever and brave," she said quietly, "but compassionate. That is rare among humans or any species." Ethan felt his cheeks warm. He had never thought of himself as heroic, but he realized that courage meant more than strength. It meant using your mind and your heart to protect those who could not protect themselves. As they reached the palace, Liara turned to him. "Human, I have tested you, and today you have proven yourself. You have shown courage, intelligence, adaptability, and compassion. You have earned my respect and trust." Ethan felt a deep sense of pride. Humans were underestimated across the galaxy, but he had proven that one human could make a difference. He had survived trials, fought battles, and protected lives. And now, he had earned the admiration of Princess Liara herself. Liara paused, her eyes thoughtful. "I misjudged humans before. I thought them weak and clumsy, unable to face true danger. But you are different. Perhaps there is hope in your kind after all." Ethan smiled faintly. I only want to show that humans can rise to challenges, Princess. That we are more than others believe." Liara stepped closer, her expression softening. "You have done that, human, and more. You have shown that courage and intelligence are not limited to any one species. You have changed how I see your kind." Ethan felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had faced danger, risked his life, and earned trust and respect. But more than that, he realized that he and Liara had formed a bond, not just of survival, but of mutual understanding. She had teased him once, but now she saw him as an equal, someone who could be relied upon in the most dangerous situations. The city was safe, the rogue faction defeated, and the citizens looked to the princess and the human who had protected them. Ethan felt a sense of purpose. Humans were underestimated, yes, but he had proven that courage, intelligence, and compassion could overcome fear and prejudice. Liara turned to him one last time that evening. "Human, today you have done more than survive. You have earned my trust, and you have proven that humans are capable of greatness. I will not forget this, and neither will Zithra." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of her words. I will continue to do my best, Princess, I promise." She smiled, a genuine, warm smile that made his heart race. "I believe you will, and perhaps, one day, humans will no longer be underestimated in the galaxy, thanks to you." As night fell over Zithra, Ethan stood on the palace balcony, looking out over the glowing city. He had faced trials, danger, and combat, and he had survived. He had earned respect, trust, and a bond with Princess Liara that was deeper than he could have imagined. He realized that humans were not weak. They were clever, brave, and capable of more than anyone expected. And now he had proven it, not just to the princess, but to himself and to an entire alien world. Liara stood beside him, silent for a moment, looking at the city lights. "You have changed everything, human," she said quietly. "I see your courage, your intelligence, your heart, and I am no longer certain humans are what I once thought." Ethan smiled. "Thank you, Princess. I only wanted to survive, to help, and to prove something. I didn't know it would mean this much." Liara looked at him, her violet eyes softening. "It has meant a great deal, not just for me, but for my people. You have shown that courage and intelligence are not limited to any one species. You have made history today." Ethan felt a sense of pride unlike anything he had ever known. He had faced danger, earned respect, and proven the worth of humans in a galaxy that had long underestimated them. He had survived trials, adapted to challenges, fought bravely, and protected lives. And in doing so, he had earned the trust and admiration of the alien princess. As they stood together, looking out at the glowing city, Ethan knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was full of dangers, challenges, and unknown worlds. But humans were underestimated no longer, and he had shown that one human could make a difference. Liara's hand brushed lightly against his arm, a simple gesture that carried meaning beyond words. "Human," she said softly, "you have changed how I see your kind. I will not forget this day, or you." Ethan met her gaze, feeling a warmth and connection that went beyond friendship. "Nor will I, Princess. I will never forget this world or you." And as the stars of Zithra shimmered above them, both human and princess knew that something extraordinary had begun. A bond forged in trials, danger, and trust. A bond that showed that courage, intelligence, and heart could bridge any difference, even between species. The galaxy had underestimated humans, but not anymore. And Ethan Blake had proven that even one human could change the course of history.